Good morning and welcome to a Test It Tuesday video. This is my brand new series where I get to test and review all the little bits of kit that I get sent through. And today I'm testing this Engwe P20 folding e-bike, which could be the answer to all of my weekly commuting needs. Well, actually not my weekly commuting needs because well, I don't commute, I'm a wedding photographer, so I'm either sat in my car taking all my kit to a wedding, or I'm sat behind my computer editing photos, but it could be the answer to all of your weekly commuting needs. And to emulate those needs, I'm heading off to a local station to get a train down into London to go and meet my friend Dale on the other side of town. And he just so happens to be testing another fold-up bike today. More on that later. Right, let's get to the station. Right, so first test passed, and this thing folds up pretty easily. I could have folded the handlebars down as well to make it really compact, as they fit quite nicely between the wheels when you fold it in half. But to be honest, that train wasn't particularly busy, so I decided to keep them up. And quite honestly, unless you're trying to hide this thing away in a closet, I really don't think you're going to need to put the bars down anyway. And simply folding it in half should be more than enough to keep it out of the way on a train. Right, so now I'm off the train and I'm in London. Let me give you the specs for this thing. So first up, it's made from 6061 aluminium, which, as I've said before in videos, is a fairly standard metal that most bikes, aluminium bikes, are made from these days. So nothing out of the ordinary there. It has a fully UK road legal 250 watt motor that delivers 42 Newton meters of power to the rear hub wheel. And that can push you along again at a UK road legal 25 kilometers an hour or 15.5 miles an hour. Now, interestingly, I was able to de-restrict that speed to make it go faster than the UK legal limit. However, I have recently heard rumours that new Engwe P20s that are being shipped aren't able to do that, and the word on the street is that Engwe have done that so that they can fully comply with UK road law. Now, I'm not entirely sure if that is definitely true. As I say, they are just rumours, but if I hear anything more about that before this video goes out, I'll make sure to put a pinned comment in the comments below. Now, the wheels are 20-inch in diameter and they take a 1.95-inch tyre, which is a gulf of difference from the Engwe E26 that I reviewed a couple of months ago with those massive 26-inch wheels and 4-inch fat tyres. These tyres are semi-slick though, and they are a definite commuter tyre. They will offer a little bit of skid reduction, but they are largely flat and smooth, so you shouldn't have any problems rolling along nicely on some nice flat tarmac. In terms of the battery, it is a 36 volt 9.6 amp hour affair, and Engwe say that on a full charge, which takes about 5 hours, you'll get about 100 kilometers of range out of this thing. Now, as ever with these e-bikes, that battery range is based on the lowest power assist setting, and so that means that if you want to go any faster than that, you'll be doing a lot more of the work. However, I reckon you will get a good 30 to 35 miles out of this thing on a full charge, so that should be enough to get you to and possibly from work, depending on the length of your commute, where you can either charge it at work or charge it again when you get back home. Alternatively, if you're not interested in going too fast, then you probably will be able to eke out a little bit more power and range out of this thing. So you could possibly go on a full week of commuting and not have to charge this thing, which would be pretty cool. However, having just said all of that about the speed and the range of the battery, I was just coming along Embankment there up towards Big Ben, and I realised that I was only in power assist setting 1, and I was cruising along nicely at 21 kilometers per hour. So actually, maybe you don't need to push it into power assist setting 2 or 3 of the 3 settings that there are on this bike, and that you could actually get the 100 kilometer range by just sitting in power assist setting 1 and cruising along nicely at 20 kilometers an hour or about 12 miles per hour. And even better than that, I'm now doing 25 kilometers an hour in power assist setting 1, and I don't feel like I'm having to spin or push my legs too hard at all. So yeah, fairly impressed with this so far. And you can keep your eye on your speed on the cute little display monitor on the handlebar, which gives you everything that you need, including your current speed, how far you've travelled, what power assist setting you're on, and the current state of charge of the battery. So the Engwe P20 does weigh about 18.5 kilos, which is a fair weight, but it's not that bad compared to some other folding e-bikes out there. And actually you can pick it up fairly easily when you are lifting it on and off the train, or maybe up and down some train station stairs. And finally, putting this thing together was actually a breeze, so much so that I didn't even film it. It's probably the quickest and easiest bike I've ever had to build out of a box. It's literally just putting the front wheel on, sliding the seat post into the seat tube, putting the handlebars on at the front, which go on with just a clasp, and then screwing the pedals on. That is literally it, simple as that. So in terms of cost, this thing currently sells in the UK for £899, or in Europe for 899 euros, which is heavily discounted from its original £1,200 or 1,200 euros. And I'll leave a link in the description below, along with a discount code that Engwe have given me, which is very nice. Now, interestingly, this thing isn't on sale in America, and I can only imagine that that's because they have much more favourable e-bike laws, meaning you can use bikes with much bigger motors in them. So therefore, a bike with just a 250 watt motor probably wouldn't make much sense in the lineup. Okay, so that's the basic specs of the P20, but there are a couple of other things on this bike that caught my attention. And the first one is that it has a carbon... You know you're in London when you're constantly interrupted by sirens. As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, one of the first things that caught my eye on this was the carbon belt drive system. And that is a huge tick for a commuter bike, because it means that you're not going to be getting your hands dirty if you ever have a problem with your chain. It also means that it's a lot quieter than a chain, and Engwe say that you could get up to around 30,000 kilometers out of one belt. You're not getting that sort of mileage out of a traditional chain. The only issue with the belt drive is that it does mean that you've only got one gear. Now, yes, there are some belt drive bikes that do have hub-based gears. Unfortunately, this isn't one of them, so it is essentially a single speed bike. Now, the issue with that is, although as I've already said, you can push yourself along at a nice 20-25 kilometers per hour, when you get any faster than that, because there is only one gear at the back, you do find that your legs start to spin out. And if you do want to push any harder than that, yeah, it looks a bit silly. But again, I'm cruising along at a nice 22-23 kilometers per hour here, and my legs are spinning at what I would suggest is a normal rate, and it actually feels pretty comfortable. The other thing I like on this bike are that it's got hydraulic disc brakes with 160mm rotors. Now, I like that because a lot of e-bikes these days are being built with cable actuated disc brakes, and I am not a fan of those at all. I've had them on my road bike previously, and I just find them really spongy and ineffective. These full hydro brakes though, well, I feel like if I pull the levers hard enough, I am going to disappear over the bars. I won't do that though. It also comes with this cool little rear rack already attached, and Engwe do sell a separate rack bag as well that clips directly onto that to give you a little bit of storage, which again is pretty cool. And talking of cool, another little nifty feature you get is at the back of the bike you get some built-in rear red lights for when the front light is turned on, but they also double up as indicators. Now, I know that might seem like a little bit of a gimmick, but given that this is a commuter bike, I think that's quite handy for when you're winding your way through towns or cities, stopping and starting at different junctions, and just letting know traffic behind you which way you're going. The only issue with the indicators is they don't self-cancel, unfortunately, so you do have to remember to press the button again to turn the indicator off. So one request I have to Engwe is to sort that out in the software. Can we just have like 5 or 10 seconds of the indicator and then make it self-cancel? Because yeah, that could be a road danger issue. I remember when I was doing my motorcycling test a good few years ago, one of the big things that they drilled into you was cancelling that indicator, because if someone's pulling out of a side street and they see you indicating into it when you're not meaning to go into that side street, they're probably going to pull out on you. But the thing that excited me most about this bike is the fact that it is fitted with a torque sensor. Now, I've spoken about these e-sensors quite a bit before in previous videos, but essentially they fall into two categories. You have a torque sensor, or you have a speed and cadence sensor. Now, with speed and cadence sensors, as the name suggests, they will wait until the bike is moving at a certain speed, or the wheels are spinning at a certain cadence before the motor kicks in. With a torque sensor though, as soon as you push your foot down on the pedal, the power is delivered straight to the motor. Now, the problem with speed and cadence sensors is that you do have to do a little bit of the work to push away from a standing start yourself. However, with a torque sensor, you don't get any of that, so there's no more laboured starts at traffic lights, and when you do want to push off, you literally just push your foot down on the pedal and off you go. Now, one little thing I've noticed from that is when I'm sat at traffic lights, not holding onto the brakes, and I just happen to place my foot on the pedal to rest it there, the bike has wanted to shoot off ahead of me. So one little thing I'd recommend is holding onto the e-brake while you're sitting at traffic lights and resting your foot on the pedal. So yeah, you don't end up flying out into traffic. Right, so that's the boring specs out of the way, and I'm nearly at the point where I'm meeting my friend Dale. So I'll go and have a little meet up with him, and then I will let you know what this bike is actually like to ride. Right, I've met up with Dale and we are back on the move. He has actually come down from up north to test out the new Brompton G-Line gravel bike. Now, you might be asking, well, why has he come all the way down to London to do that? Well, he did try it to go to a Brompton dealer in Harrogate, but when he got there, no, it turns out that it's only the gold accredited dealers that have the bikes to test. And the only place that he could find one of those was in West London at Fudge & Sons. So he's come down to Fudge & Sons, I've come over to meet him, and we're now on a ride through Hyde Park with me on my electric Engwe P20 and him on his electric Brompton G-Line. So this should be quite a good test and compare, if nothing else. That wasn't what this video was about, but it'll be quite interesting to see. Now, you might recognise Dale from previous videos of mine, or a previous video of mine, which was the North London dirt ride back last year, and that was the ride that killed my bike and nearly killed me. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we don't get anything like that today. I'm hoping it's just going to be a gentle pootle around Hyde Park with a little bit of a chat and no rear wheels flying out the back, lodging into the disc brake caliper, sending me over the handlebars. Yeah, that wasn't fun. Right, well, we're having a lovely ride around Hyde Park here, and as I said before, Dale is on the Brompton G-Line. It is a beautiful looking bike, and I do like the fact that it has more than one gear. It's got 4 gears on it, did you say? 4 gears, and it is an e-bike as well, so it does give you a little bit more so that your legs aren't spinning out even on the flats. But I won't go too deep into it because this is an Engwe P20 review, not a Brompton G-Line review. But it is a very nice bike, but I must say, you would expect it to be a nice bike for £3,500. Yeah, that is a lot of dough. Dale does seem to be enjoying it at the moment, although it's also very, very cold as well. And I must admit, my jaw is getting pretty cold. It's getting a bit difficult to talk at the moment because my jaw is starting to seize up. But he is having a lot of fun on it. So yeah, if you want to try one out yourself, get yourself down to Fudge & Sons on Harrow Road. Oh, hang on, he's got his feet off the pedals now. He's gone right back to his childhood. So yeah, get yourself over to Fudge & Sons on Harrow Road, gold accredited Brompton dealer, and get yourself trialling one. Right, I'm gonna have a bit more of a ride around the park with Dale, and then we'll get back onto the review on what this bike is actually like to ride. Right, well, I've said goodbye to Dale as he heads on his way back on the train back up to Darlington. But yes, now back on with this review. But before that, let me get to the park because it is a much nicer area to ride around and talk to the camera on, especially now the sun has come out. Oh man, look at this, some beautiful winter sun back in the park. This has turned into a dream ride. So going on from what I was saying earlier, what's this bike actually like to ride in practical terms? Well, actually very comfortable. The seat post and the handlebars do extend quite a way, and I actually haven't got them fully extended. So even at 6'1" as I am, or 185 centimeters, I don't feel too bunched up or constricted on this bike. Now, it doesn't have any suspension like the Engwe E26 does, but again, this is a commuter bike, and if you are riding it mainly on fully tarmacked roads, then that shouldn't be too much of a problem for you. Just avoid those potholes, of which unfortunately there are many these days. It's got pretty decent off-road capabilities as well, it seems. The bike is fairly easy to ride in normal clothes too. For instance, today I'm wearing jeans, a pair of boots, and just a t-shirt and a big duffel coat, and it's actually been fairly simple to ride the bike, which is ideal because when you commute in to and from work, you're unlikely to be wearing a full lycra skin suit. In fact, this thing is so easy to ride in non-cycling clothes that back last month I rode this bike over to the Action medical events Champions of Cycle Sport event over in West London, and I was wearing a dicky bow tie and full tuxedo, and even wearing that, this bike was incredibly comfortable to ride. So moving on to the power of this thing, what is the acceleration like? Well, considering it's only got a 250 watt motor, it's actually pretty nippy, and with that torque sensor as well, as I say, as soon as you put your foot down on the pedal, it is keen to push off ahead. It does feel a little bit like a brand new excitable puppy when you set at traffic lights, and when you put your foot down on the pedal, it does want to go. But that is very good for when you do finally push off, and it really doesn't take any leg power to get yourself going. Now the bike does have a throttle which straight out of the box is disabled, again to keep it UK road legal. You can enable that, but again that immediately makes it illegal for UK road use. I think there is a way to set it up so that it only goes at a walking pace, so if you need to get off the bike and push it for any reason, that you can use the throttle and it will only move along at 1 to 2 miles an hour. That is still legal, so at least you'll be able to use that if you need to. The one slight negative of this bike that I found is with the built-in front light. Now the light is fairly good, and the fact that it's built into the front and just works directly off the battery is very good. However, the effectiveness of it I have to question. The light is quite bright and it shines like a crescent shaped light onto the floor in front of you, and it would be perfect if you are riding around lit city streets or town streets and all you need is something for other road users to see you. However, where I live right out in the sticks, as soon as you go onto any sort of really dark road, unfortunately the light only projects about 5 meters or so in front of you, so anything further than that and you're basically riding blind. So if you were to get this bike, then I would strongly recommend you buy some sort of separate independent light to go on your handlebars to give you a bit more visibility, or at least you have visibility of the road ahead of you as and when you're riding on dark roads. In terms of year-round use of this thing, Engwe say that this is rated to IP6, which means it can take powerful jets of water for at least 3 minutes from any direction. So this should be a decent enough bike to use in the UK wet winters and all year round. But my only other slight annoyance with this bike is, once again with this Engwe, the same with the E26, is that the brakes are the wrong way round for the UK market. We use the front brake over here generally on the right hand side and the rear brake on the left. Unfortunately this one is the opposite way round, which is more set up for European riding. But to be honest, that is only a fairly minor thing, and changing the brakes over if you wanted to is a fairly simple job. Right, so now I'm coming to the end of my journey. It's probably a good time to tell you again about the battery, because I've done about 50k on this bike today, having ridden from Liverpool Street over to West London, ridden around with Dale for quite a bit, and then back up to Liverpool Street Station. So yeah, 50k, about 30 miles, and I've only just dropped down onto a single bar of battery. So I reckon I should get a good 10 to 15k out of this now, or another 7 to 10 miles or so. So yeah, I reckon a good 35 miles out of a full charge on this thing. That's not bad going, especially as I've tested the bike out on pedal assist 3 for most of the day. I started off on just pedal assist 1, but I did want to test that battery to see just how far you could push it. That's pretty decent, I reckon. So in conclusion, what do I think of this bike overall? Well, for the cost, and as I say, it's currently £900 or euros, it's actually a really decent little offering. Having ridden the Brompton G-Line this morning, it's obvious that that is a much more premium product, and with the extra gears it has a little bit more scope in terms of what you can do with it, but it's also £3,500 again compared to the £900 for this, so it doesn't really compare, and they are in a completely different league to each other. So I would definitely be happy riding this all year round to and from work, because as you know, I don't mind riding in any weather. But let me know your thoughts below. What do you think of this bike? Is this something you could see yourself commuting on a daily basis, or is it not for you? Either way, I always love to hear your comments, guys, so drop a comment down below. And otherwise, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this sunny commute back to the train station and back up to Stansted. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.